How many of you watch the NFL every Sunday? I know as a sports fan, I try to as much as possible. To better understand the NFL, there are going to be three topics that we're going to talk about. The first one is how the NFL actually started. The second one is the AFC and NFC merger. And lastly is how the modern NFL has changed today. So to better understand what the NFL is, we have to know where it came from. The NFL started in Canton, Ohio in 1920. Their president was Jim Thorpe, who was actually a professional athlete at the time, and actually gave the NFL a lot of credibility because he was already a very popular person. The teams during the early stages were a lot different than the teams you see today. A couple of those teams include the Akron Pros, the Canton Bulldogs, and the Columbus Panhandles. The NFL also had a much different name when it first started. In 1920, its name was the American Pro Football Association, but in 1922 it changed to the National Football League. They did this because the American Pro Football Association didn't sound as good as the National Football League, and also it didn't flow off the tongue as well. The first NFL game was between the Rock Island Independents and the St. Paul's Ideals. The Rock Island Independents won 48-0, but there was one problem. The St. Paul Ideals were not in the league yet. So the real first game was Dayton Triangles versus the Columbus Panhandles, where the Dayton Triangles shut out the Panhandles 14-0. After this, the NFL took a drastic change. The biggest change in the NFL was the AFC and NFC merger. This is actually when two professional football leagues came together and merged into one league. The two professional football leagues were the All-American Football League and the National Football League. The All-American Football League turned into the AFC, and that's where all their teams went, while the NFL teams all turned into the NFC, and those were all categorized as the National Football League. According to Forcestock.com, the AFC teams that were added were Cleveland Browns, the Buffalo Bills, the New England Patriots, the New York Jets, the Houston Oilers, who actually turned into the Tennessee Titans, the Kansas City Chiefs, and many, many more. And then that is also how the Super Bowl was created, because as we know, the Super Bowl is when the best NFC team plays the best AFC team. Back then, it was widely known that the NFC was considered better, and that because they came from the NFL, which was the real professional football league at the time. Well, this was all changed when Joe Namath in the third Super Bowl took the Jets into Kansas City and won that game after being 20-point underdogs. This led us to how the NFL works today. The modern NFL has changed in drastic ways. The first way is the teams are still moving. Just recently, the St. Louis Rams moved to Los Angeles and became the Los Angeles Rams. This year alone, there are two teams moving. The first one is the Los Angeles Chargers, which used to be in San Diego. The other one is the Oakland Raiders, who haven't decided where they're going yet, but they plan to move to Las Vegas. There are also many problems in the modern NFL. A couple of the problems are like Deflategate, which was when the New England Patriots were accused of deflating footballs during their playoff game. As a result, Tom Brady was actually suspended 4 games this season because of it. Another problem they're having is with PEDs, or performance-enhancing drugs. They don't want players to use them because it hurts the body and it makes the game unfair. Another huge problem is concussions. The NFL wants to make it as safe as possible for all the players in the league. This means they're trying to keep the players' brain and head safe. So they've been creating new rules and new precautions to try to protect that. Another huge thing is domestic violence. The NFL wants to make sure that the NFL players aren't committing anything illegal, and they don't want them to be bad role models for kids that are watching them today. There's also been other things like rule changes. The biggest rule change that happened recently is the extra point moved from the 2-yard line to the 20-yard line. This makes trying to kick an extra point after a touchdown much harder. There's also been other rule changes, such as kickoffs moving up 5 yards. This makes it for more touchbacks and less kickoff returns, which they did to try to make the game safer. There's also been a lot more pass interference calls nowadays because of the way the NFL works. Back in the day, there was a lot more rushing the football, while now there's a lot more passing, so that would lead to an increase in pass interference calls. There's also been a rule change where if you get 2 personal fouls in a game, you get ejected from the game. Back in the day, you could get as many personal fouls as you wanted and you would never get ejected from the game. And this has all been provided by the NFL operations. So the NFL is definitely one of the most widely watched sports in all of America. I hope I have informed you about the start of the NFL, the NFC and AFC merger, and the modern day NFL. Now when you sit down and watch a football game on Sundays with your friends and family, you can give them little facts about the game. Thank you for listening.